stronger than the power of the grave. You're constant through the trial and the change. It's one thing remains. It's one thing remains. Your love never fails, it never gives up, it never runs out on me. Your love never fails, it never gives up, it never runs out on me. Your love never fails, it never gives up, it never runs out on me. Your love. And on it goes. And on and on and on and on it goes. Yes, it overwhelms and satisfies my soul. And I never ever have to be afraid. Just one thing remains. Yes, one thing remains. Your love never fails, it never gives up, it never runs out on me. Your love never fails, it never gives up, it never runs out on me. Your love never fails, it never gives up, it never runs out on me. Your love, your in death and life, in death, in life, I'm confident and covered by the power of your great love. My death is paid, there's nothing that can separate my heart from your great love. Your love never fails, it never gives up, it never runs out on me. Your love never fails, it never gives up, it never runs out on me. Your love never fails, it never gives up, it never runs out on me. Your love, your love, your love never fails, it never gives up, it never runs out on me. Your love never fails, it never gives up, it never runs out on me. Your love never fails, it never gives up, it never runs out on me. Your love, on and on it goes. And on and on and on and on it goes. Yes, it overwhelms and satisfies my soul. And I never ever have to be afraid. Just one thing remains. Yes, one thing remains. Amen. We're so glad that you tuned in with us this morning.
What's up, Ocean Point? My name is Francesca, and I serve on the team here at Ocean Point. I just wanted to take a second and say thanks for tuning in. You could have been doing so many other things, but you decided to be here with us, and we're truly grateful for that. As a way of staying together and connected while we have to be physically apart, we want you to do a few things. First, check in. Let us know that you're hanging out. We always love to hear who we have with us. Second, let us know who you're watching with. Maybe you're by yourself, with your friends, family, or just your dog. Whoever it is, we want to know. And lastly, let us know where you're watching from. We have people connected all over the world, and we want to know if and when you're watching. Some of us may have experienced things through life that really stick with us, and we want you to know that if you experience that through one of our services, go ahead and share the video. Let your Facebook friends and family in on all that you've been experiencing through the life of Ocean Point. And lastly, we are going to be observing communion, so if you have your supplies, go ahead and grab those, get ready, and as we continue in worship, we'll take communion. Thanks for tuning in, Ocean Point.
me down. You're never gonna let 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 me down. You are good, you're good. Oh, you are good, you're good. Oh, you're good, you're good. Oh, is holding on to me. Yes, God is holding on. Sing it again, church. When the night is holding on to me. Yes, God is holding on. 'Cause you are good. Oh, you are good. You're good. Oh, you are good. Good. Oh, you are good. Good. Oh.
We all love a good story, one that can capture our imagination. So there's power in story. There's power in your story. People can argue or disagree with your politics. They can disagree with your theology, but it's a lot harder to argue with your story. So listen close. Listen close to how God has woven his story into the stories of our people in our series called This Is My Story.
Hi, my name is Matt Bishop. I'm part of the worship technology team here at Ocean Point. I'm kind of a behind the scenes guy, so to be in front of the camera, it's a little bit out of my comfort zone. I'm going to do the best I can. I just pray for your patience, and I also pray that parts of my story will resonate with parts of your story. I started my journey with Jesus. I was introduced to him and the church around the age of 8 or 9 when my family started attending the Church of Christ in Massachusetts. I didn't really understand it. I didn't know what the big deal was, but I was introduced to a small group of kids in the youth group. So I made some good friends, and I was surrounded by a small group of Christians for my youth growing up, so that was good. The problem I had with that church was it was very conservative and strict. We attended services 3 times a week. We were kind of discouraged from socializing with people from outside of the church. So over the years, I kind of started to resent that church. But like I said, a lot of my friends were with that church, so I enjoyed my time with them. We attended summer camp together. And around the age of 12, I was baptized along with a small group of kids, primarily because that's what everyone was doing. I didn't really understand why that was important or what it meant to my life. I was just kind of going with the crowd. I didn't really get the full picture of what Jesus was supposed to mean to me in my life. After about 10 years with that church, I graduated high school and I moved away to college. And with that newfound freedom, I met a lot of new friends that didn't share my faith background or my beliefs, and I slowly started moving away from that path. For the next season of my life, I didn't follow Jesus' path, and I just led a very wild and sinful life because I had figured that I had just paid my dues to the church already, and I didn't need to do that anymore. When I was an adult, after I'd finished college, and I was on my own, living by myself, I was very sad, lonely, angry, upset that life wasn't bringing me some of the things that some of my friends had, like marriage and children and success. I didn't really understand why, but thinking back on that now, I realize it was because I didn't include God in my life. I didn't make Him center of my life. I made myself center of my life, and I paid the price for that. Around the year 2000, I was at a really low point in my life. I didn't know how I should proceed with my life. I wasn't even sure if I really wanted to proceed anymore. I'd pretty much given up any hope that I was going to have anything good in my life. And that's when I remembered, or at least hoped, that there was a God out there that loved me, no matter what. So for the first time in 8 years, I decided to pray to Him again. I prayed that He would forgive me of my sins. I prayed that He would heal my life. And I prayed for someone to come into my life to be a companion and a friend and to help my life move forward. After praying, within that week, maybe a day or two later, I ended up meeting my would-be wife, my soon-to-be wife. I didn't know it at the time, but after we met, we hit it off so quickly and so thoroughly that really, thinking back on it, it could have only been God handling the details for me, and it was pretty amazing. Shortly after we got married, we got pregnant, and my life was really starting to turn around for the better. We did not have a church home, however, and that was kind of troubling to me because I attributed meeting my wife and having the newfound success to God, and I wanted to have a church home to worship Him in. Tracy, my wife, was raised Catholic, and our faith traditions really didn't match up. But we were in agreement that once we started having children, we wanted them to be raised in a church community to learn from good examples around them. So we, over the course of 3 or 4 years, attended several churches, 2 or 3 at least, to see what would be a good fit. And after giving each one a good 6 months to a year, we just really did not find a church that spoke to us and spoke to our souls. So we stopped attending all churches altogether and pretty much gave up our search. We didn't think that we were going to find a good one, and we were both very discouraged. At this time, I was a postal carrier, but I wasn't a full-time one. I was a substitute carrier. That means that I wasn't really working every single day all week long. I was working when people needed a day off. And it just so happened that God used this job to reintroduce Himself into my life. I was working one day, and I had a flyer from a new church that was starting called Ocean Point. And I delivered probably 500 flyers all around my mail route that day. And after delivering 200 or 300 of them, I finally stopped to look at and see what was in the mail that was repeating so often. And I saw that it was from Ocean Point. and I didn't really know what it was, and I didn't really care. I was very bitter and disillusioned about church. But then I turned it over, and the back of it said, "For those who have given up on church but not on God." And I thought to myself, that sounds kind of exactly how I feel. But I was still very bitter, and I didn't even bring it up to my wife. So I just kind of let that opportunity pass, and consequently we missed the very first week of Ocean Point's opening. But God wasn't finished with me yet, because the very next week I was covering a route again, and on that very day that I was covering, Ocean Point decided that they were going to put out a second mailer for the second week of Ocean Point, and this time all 500 pieces I just kept seeing, "For those who have given up on church but not on God," over and over and over and over again. So finally I said, "Okay, God, message received. I hear you loud and clear." And that night I brought home an extra one to show Tracy, my wife, and we decided to attend that Sunday. So we started coming to Ocean Point the second week of its existence. And let me tell you something, we were blown away. I mean, it was so fresh and new and modern, and the staff was young and energetic and fun, and we just left there with our heads spinning. We couldn't believe that church could be like this. Coming from my conservative background, and especially Tracy's conservative Catholic background, I mean, my church didn't even have musical instruments in it. It was very boring, mundane, strict rules, and I mean, Ocean Point was just a breath of fresh air, and we couldn't wait to come back another time. So the very next week we came back and were greeted in the lobby by Jeff, and he greeted us by name. We couldn't believe it. They remembered us. They remembered our names. Some of the churches that we attended before this, we came and went for several weeks, and no one bothered to say hello or get to know who we were. And you know, when Ocean Point says that they don't want you to come and go and not feel like you were noticed, we experienced that several times in a couple different churches. So for Jeff to say hello and say, "Hello, Matt. Hello, Tracy," we were blown away. So we decided to sign the Connect card and start our journey with Ocean Point. And since joining this church, we have found community. We have found some awesome friends. Our kids have grown up with some of their kids, and it's just been an amazing, awesome experience. Tracy and I both got baptized. I got rebaptized, feeling that the first time really didn't count because I really didn't do it for the right reasons. And then I turned around and baptized Tracy that same day. And since then, we've been witness to countless other baptisms, and it's just been really, really amazing, and we're really blessed. We both volunteer regularly with the church, and I really can't wait to get into that new space and start really pumping up the volunteer hours, because it's going to be amazing. We really can't wait to see where God takes this church community. Now, I have to be real for a second, and I have to admit that during this pandemic, it's really worn down on me spiritually. I really feel disconnected from the church community. I really enjoy what the church has been doing as best as they can to continue worship and to continue community during these times with the online services and the midweek services, and having Easter the best that they could. I really appreciate all the efforts, but even still, the lack of physical community has really taken its toll on me. And I have to say that the world has really been trying to break its way back into my head and undo all the good things that God has done for my life over these past few months. And I just pray, if you're in the same position and if you're in the same place mentally and spiritually, hold on. It's going to get better. I know this because I've been in a very low place And even though I had ignored God and I hadn't spoken to him in almost 10 years, the instant that I started speaking to him again, he was there. It was like he never left. He was always with me, and I just refused to see it. And I know that if you're feeling the same way and if you're in a low place, just talk to him. Just talk to him. He's there. And pray. Whatever you pray for, he will be there and he will answer it. I know this. And if you need to hear a voice, please reach out to someone at Ocean Point. Whether it's a staff member or it's a friend, they'll be there for you. They've been there for me and for my family. And I really can't say enough good things. And I'm so very, very blessed and so thankful to God that he brought us to Ocean Point. Thanks for listening.
Good morning. Happy Sunday. Hi, Ocean Point. My name is Jess DeMello, and I was asked to share a little bit of my story with you today about how God has worked in my life, and I was really happy to do that. I think that at least some of you could relate to what happened in my life and how God worked in my life. So I came to church and to know God altogether about 2 years ago. And before that, I didn't really have a faith. I knew I believed in something, but I didn't have like a relationship with God. And I was definitely lost. 2 years ago, when I finally made the decision to change my life, I was at what I would call my rock bottom. And I bet a lot of people that come to their faith at an older age, middle-aged, find themselves at a rock bottom too. So for me, I was 35 and had a good life, materialistically. I had, everything was okay. I had just bought my second home. I had a good job. I have a little boy named Luke. He's 5 now. At the time, he was a toddler. And everything seemed to be pretty good, except I didn't have a stable romantic relationship. And that is really, I think, where my challenges have been in relationships, which is really common when you're a child of an alcoholic. So if you go back in my life, we grew up in a Navy home, military family, moved around a lot, almost every year, every couple years, which is pretty typical. And I have a sister and my mother and father. So we didn't know, at a young age that my dad was an alcoholic. And he may not have been at the beginning, but the disease is so progressive. So over time, it just got worse and worse for my dad. The drinking got more regular. I don't know if I could ever remember a day that my dad didn't have a can of beer in his hands. But again, that was just kind of like our life. It was just normal. Everything seemed okay. I mean, it was a fairly happy childhood. But over time, it got worse. And on top of that, he would go away for deployment, and it would be, a year at a time sometimes. And it would just be my sister and me and my mother. So as I got a little bit older, as a teenager, I was more aware of the drinking and the issues at home. And I didn't have a father that was emotionally present. A good guy, but not able to connect. So when that happens, it's pretty common for a kid, especially a daughter, I would imagine, to end up trying to find that connection with other men. And that led me to, half of my life of just serial dating. I dated looking for a husband. I thought that almost every boyfriend was going to be my husband. You know, he's the one. I think he's the one. So, you know, late teens, 20s, and early 30s, it was really just, you know, trying to find that love in other people. And now I know that it was really trying to fill my God-sized hole. I had this hole so gaping big in my heart, and the only thing that truly can fill it is God, and nothing on this earth could ever fill it. Only He can. I tried to fill the hole with people, and it seemed that every time I tried that, the hole got bigger, if anything. You know, pieces of me were taken away in all of those relationships, and it left me feeling very empty and never complete, feeling defective, lonely, depressed, anxious. So fast forward to 2 years ago, I remember the day that I finally asked for help. I was on the floor playing with my little boy, and he was happy playing with, I think, cars we were playing with, and I cried all day long because at that time I was in a really, really bad relationship. I had a partner that was, I couldn't even call him a partner really, but it was a relationship where it was not healthy, based on lies, secretive. A lot of people didn't even know about the relationship, and very dark. And so at that time, I'm on the floor and I'm crying, and I'm really trying to figure out how I can end that relationship with the person. Codependent for sure. So it's just really, really hard to even try to let that go. And I had nobody that even knew what was going on in my life at that time. So I picked up the phone and I called my girlfriend Colleen, who I worked with for a couple of years, I think, at that point. And I knew Colleen went to Ocean Point, and I knew that she was a peaceful person and not judgmental. She would never make anybody, I don't think, feel bad about who they are or what they're going through. And so I knew I could trust her, and I called her up crying and just saying to her, you know, I'm not happy, I'm broken, and I think that the only thing that can really help me right now would be God. And she was so happy to take the call, and she asked if I would go to Ocean Point in the morning, if we could go to church, and I said yes. So I went to Ocean Point in July of 2018 with Colleen, and she was by my side for months during a period of time I would call my healing time, you know, and being saved. So I came in and I looked around, and I just noticed that everybody, the leadership team, people that went to church, they just seemed all very happy, at least on those days, on church days. Everybody was just really joyful, and I loved it. And so I looked forward to it every week. I ended up joining Starting Point to learn more about Jesus. I really didn't know much in my background. And Mark facilitated the group. It was a small group, which was good. I think I needed that. And we talked about everything. We talked about we went through hard questions and doubt and guilt and shame. And it was just a really nice group. And from there, after I felt comfortable, I reached out to Mark in an email, and I just asked if he had anybody that I could talk to one-on-one. I knew I needed more help and more support, and it really needed to be with a woman just because of the relationship issues. In the email, I just told him that I was having a hard time with issues with guilt and shame, and I needed more support. So Mark emailed me back that day, and he quoted scripture, and I saved it. I have it in front of me right now. This is from Romans chapter 8, verse 1 and 2. So now there is no condemnation for those who belong to Christ Jesus. And because you belong to Him, the power of the life-giving Spirit has freed you from the power of sin that leads to death. And Mark went on to talk about conviction versus condemnation. He explained to me that, God will give a person conviction and a desire to do better and to be better, but he's not going to condemn you. And Mark just urged me to feel free in that, be freed through God, just even asking for help, asking for forgiveness, accepting him and surrendering, that will lead to peace, to freedom. So from there, he connected me to Christine, who's also a leader in the church. And we met for, quite a few sessions over coffee, and we talked about prayer, we talked about forgiveness, guilt and shame, relationships, and she really helped me through a lot. And I attribute a lot of my growth to her support and to her honesty and to giving me accountability in relationships and just in living. So again, I came to Ocean Point in July and began my healing process. By November, I was baptized at Second Beach by Mark, and he also dedicated Luke on that day. It was a beautiful day, and I feel like that for me was my restart button. I had grown so much, and it was time for me to just wash away all the sin, wash away the shame, and then be able to walk forward in my life with dignity, respect for myself, and really vowing to God that I was going to do something different with my life now, that I'm committed and accountable for my choices in my life. I had everything that I needed, the tools, and I had him. So around that time too, in small group, we would talk about relationships and families, and I mentioned, of course, my, my series of dating. And at one point, I remember even crying in my small group, and I just was saying, I just hope that one day I can try again, that I would have a second chance at having a healthy relationship, a marriage, a husband who loves and respects me, and that I can love and respect as well. And I knew at that point that I didn't need another person in my life. That was a whole learning for me. It was I just needed God, and I needed to accept and surrender that he will give me what I need, because I don't really know what I need. It's just kind of all, I put it all over to him. And he answered my prayers, and I didn't have specific requirements for my partner, but I did know that I wanted a Christian man. I wanted a good man who was respectful and who I could continue to grow with. And no sooner did Ruben show up in my life. I mean, it's just really wild. He came into my life right around the time of my baptism, and I didn't know if I was ready, and I brought it to Christine, and we all met together, and we set boundaries for the relationship, and vowed to keep it slow and pure, even in middle age. I really wanted to again follow my vow that to God that I was going to do it right this time. So we dated and had a wonderful relationship, very sweet, and he was great with Luke too, and then in June of the following year, we got engaged on my birthday, a beautiful engagement, and then in September of last year, in 2019, we got married. So it was a very short courtship, and kind of fast and furious, I guess, but also the right way for me. So between November of 18 when I was baptized in September of 19, I had so much happen. You know, Mark baptized me, he dedicated Luke, and then we got married by Mark in September. It was a very beautiful day, and I had such a nice wedding with people from the church. Christine sang me down the aisle. Again, Mark married us. Jeff blessed our food. Brady and Emily performed. It was really beautiful, and I had my church family. You know, you can't tell me that this wasn't a miracle. You know, and this was all because of my ask of God to take care of me and give me what I didn't even know that I needed, and really surrendering to whatever he had in store for me. And all I really had to do was ask for forgiveness and help. And I asked, you know, Colleen at the very beginning too for help. I think that he'll work through people, you know. So I would encourage you, my takeaway for today, for this morning, would be to figure out where your powerlessness is in your life, you know, where you need help, and accept that, you know, you can't fix it alone, and then just turn it over to God, ask for forgiveness, and just watch how he works, watch how the people are put in your life that he's working through for you. He definitely did for me. And also, if you can relate to my story about, you know, issues in your life with relationships or with your parents, anything that I've shared with you, I just want you to know too that you're not broken. You know, I mean, we're all broken and we all need healing, but there's you're not defective, you know, and God can help you in all of that pain, and he is really the only thing that can fill you up when you're empty. And then anything else that happens in your life, you know, if you have him, you're going to be okay, you know. And I know that today, that I'm okay because I have my Father, and I have that love that's just completely unconditional. And no matter what I do in my life to try to mess it up, he's still always going to be there for me, you know, and telling me to come home to him. I hope you have a great day, and thank you for listening to my testimony. Bye.
Standing here in your presence, in a great so relentless, I am loved by perfect love, wrapped within the arms of heaven, in a place that lasts forever, sinking through in mercy. I'm wide awake, drawing closer by grace, and oh, my heart is yours. All fear removed, and breathe you in, lean into your you pursue me, lift my hand to see your glory, Lord of all, so beautiful. Here in you I find shelter, captivated by the splendor of your face, my secret place. I'm wide awake, drawing close by grace, and oh, my heart is all I see. You are my everything. Jesus Christ, you are my one desire. Lord, hear my only cry to know you all my life. Your love so deep is washing over me. Your face is all I see. You are my everything. Jesus Christ, you are my one desire. Lord, hear my only cry to know you all my life. I'm wide awake, drawing closer by grace, and all my heart is yours. All fear removed, I breathe you in and lead into your love. Oh, your love, your love, your love. His love so deep, His love so deep is washing over me. Your face is all I see. You are my everything. Jesus Christ, you are my one desire. Lord, hear my only cry to know you all my life. Sing it out. Your love so deep is washing over me. Your face is all I see. You are my everything. Jesus Christ, you are my one desire. Lord, hear my only cry to know you all my life. Love so deep is washing over me. Your face is all I see. You are my everything. Jesus Christ, you are my one desire. Lord, hear my only cry to know you all my life. Love so deep is washing over me. Your face is all I see. You are my everything. Jesus Christ, you are my one desire. Lord, hear my only cry to know you all my life.
Hey guys, thanks again for tuning in to our virtual service, and I'm so glad that you were able to be a part of this, and hopefully it's a great reminder to you that we are a part of something bigger than ourselves. So remember, the church is not a building, the church is you, the church is me, the church is us. So go or stay and be the church.